Tony casually plucked a wrinkled apple from the tree, handing it to the woman. He said indifferently, "This can cure all diseases." The woman looked skeptical, thinking he was just bragging, but the moment the apple was snatched away by a scheming woman, everything changed. She took just one bite, and the birthmark on her face visibly disappeared. Even the infertility that had plagued her for 30 years was completely cured. She could feel the cells in her body wildly reshaping. But what was even more shocking, a top scientist took a small bite of the apple's peel, and was so overwhelmed that he exclaimed he could die without regret. He was willing to give up everything, just to meet the man who grew this miraculous apple. It turned out that this despised rotten apple was actually the fruit of a grade 1 spiritual plant. Just a single one was enough to overturn the entire world. Not only could it prolong life, it could also grant eternal youth. Yet the woman never revealed Tony's whereabouts, because she always thought the spiritual herbs in Tony's yard were just worthless fakes. Little did she know, every plant Tony grew was a rare, top-tier spiritual herb. He was born as a child of spiritual energy. Any seed he casually scattered would grow into a grade 9 spiritual herb. Even the very ground he stood on would be surrounded by rich spiritual energy. In stark contrast to Tony, the wealthy heiress had spent 10 years and a fortune, yet failed to cultivate even a single spiritual plant. Now the special cultivation serum was about to run out. If she couldn't grow a spiritual plant within 3 days, the company would face bankruptcy and liquidation, and she would have to fulfill her family's promise to marry Tony, the rural boy from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the heiress was hunted down by her enemies. In a life-threatening moment, it was that country boy who saved her. At the time, her maid noticed the strange fragrance emanating from the boy. The heiress immediately agreed that when she came of age in 10 years, she would marry him. Before they parted, the young boy took off his jade ring and handed it to her as a token of their engagement. With that single bottle of spiritual herb serum, the heiress rose to the ranks of the elite. Now, the 10-year promise had arrived, but the heiress found Tony to be nothing more than a mere farmer. She ordered the woman to return the ring and cancel the engagement. Although the woman had never forgotten Tony's life-saving grace, she was just a lowly maid and dared not defy orders. So she went to find Tony to break off the engagement. But before she could say a word, the sight before her left her utterly stunned. The entire courtyard was filled with thriving spiritual plants. There was even a 100-year-old ancient spiritual tree, radiating dense spiritual energy. When Tony heard she wanted to cultivate spiritual herbs, he casually handed her an apple. The woman looked at the wrinkled fruit with disdain. She was convinced that Tony's so-called cultivation was nothing but a scam. After all, their company had spent a fortune for 10 years, and still failed to grow a single grade 9 spiritual herb. How could a mere farmer possibly cultivate real spiritual plants? Before leaving, she stuffed a few $1,000s into Tony's hands, thinking it might help him after he inevitably got scammed. Little did she know, the apple she despised so much was about to shock the entire world. When the heiress announced that anyone who could find a spiritual plant could save the company, the scheming woman deliberately mocked the maid, pointing directly at the apple in her hands. The maid refused to take out the apple, afraid of being ridiculed, but the scheming woman suddenly made a move and snatched the apple away. The moment she took a bite, her entire body began radiating powerful spiritual energy.